All right, it is just after noon Eastern time, so we will go ahead and get started. Thank you, first of all, everyone, for joining today's webinar. We're here with the last webinar in this series, Thrive Not Survive, on retaining remote culture. We would love to answer any and all questions that you have. This is a really great topic to help teams grow, so we want to make sure that you have everything you need from this. You can submit those questions that you have through the Q&A function on the live event, and we will answer any and all questions at the end of the webinar. As a reminder, this webinar is recorded. We will share that recording with you after the webinar, along with a few other assets. So with that, I think that's all the housekeeping. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Derek so he can get started.
Great, thanks, Kelly. Welcome everybody this late morning, early afternoon. I'm really excited to be delivering this last in our Thrive Not Survive webinar series around building and retaining a workplace culture. Before we get started, we've got 3 other sessions in this series. We have Web Meetings 101, we have Web Meeting Etiquette, and Remote Employee Management. If you haven't seen those other ones, they're really good content. Just go out to YouTube and look for GoodellNet, and you can find those sessions out there. Quick introduction, if you haven't joined our webinar series before, my name is Derek Watson. I'm the Director of Microsoft Solutions here at GoodellNet. Our headquarters is here in St. Louis, and that's where I'm from as well. And I have a 20-year background in IT consulting, mainly in the St. Louis area for some larger organizations here. And my passions are emerging technology, productivity, and building technology community. So thanks for everybody that responded to our poll. Let's go ahead and check those results real quick. All right, so the question was, how do you feel your own workplace's culture has been affected the past 3 months? The first answer is, I feel that nothing's changed. It's the same now as if we were in the office. The second answer was, I think that we've discovered new ways to engage with employees and help each other during this time of change. And the last one is, things have not gone so well since going remote. So right away, I see for the people on this call, it looks like at least things have maintained, if not gotten better. So that's great news. Hopefully some of the information we provide you today can help you even grow even more and possibly inspire you to do some different things around your office as well. So quick agenda. We're going to start out with what is workplace culture, talk about why it's important. We'll talk about the key impacts to workplace culture. And then we'll get into using technology to support that culture. And lastly, a little bit of a bonus, our wonderful CEO, Nick Morelli, has provided his top culture tips for those of you that are looking to kind of either grow in that space or even just get started on that journey. So what is workplace culture? So culture is the character and personality of your organization. What makes your business unique? It's some of the values, the traditions, the beliefs, interactions, behaviors, and attitudes. So again, it's the soul of your business is really what it is. More importantly, why is it important? So one of the key things here is it attracts talent. It attracts good quality and talent that aligns to your values. When a lot of times when job candidates will be interviewing with them, they're actually evaluating your organization and its climate as well as you evaluating them. Also, if you have a strong, positive, well-communicated culture, that actually attracts talent and people from other organizations. Secondly, it drives engagement and retention. It impacts how the employees interact and work with their work and your organization. Thirdly, it impacts the happiness. It impacts the happiness and satisfaction of your organization. And even in research even shows that it directly is impacted by having a strong workplace culture. Lastly, it affects performance. Organizations with stronger cultures outperform their competitors financially and are generally more successful. So what are the things that can impact culture? Because again, culture is a very broad term, but let's talk about what can provide direct impact to your workplace culture. And these are in no particular order, but at the top we have leadership. the way that your leaders communicate and interact with employees, what they communicate and emphasize, their vision, what they celebrate, what they expect, the stories they tell, how they make decisions, the extent at which they're trusted, their beliefs and their perceptions that they reinforce all factor into how the leadership can impact the culture. Secondly is management. How your organization is managed. It's the processes, systems, hierarchy, controls, the degrees which managers, how they empower their employees to make decisions and support and interact with them and act consistently. Those definitely play into the culture as well. Third is policies. Employment policies like attendance, dress code, code of conduct, scheduling, organizational philosophies like hiring, compensation, paying for performance, internal transfer and promotion all affect the company's culture. Mission, vision, and values. This is a big one. So the clarity of the mission, the vision and values, and whether they honestly reflect those beliefs and philosophies, also how inspiring they are to their employees, the extent of which they're stable, widely communicated, and emphasized, all directly impact your workplace culture. Your work environment impacts the culture as well. Just in general, the look and feel, the physical signs in your workplace, what's on people's desks, what's hanging on the walls, how you allocate the space in your offices. Is it open floor plan? Does everybody have their own office? What's the colors look like? What's the furniture look like? How are they common area used? All these things have a direct impact on your culture. Practices related to recruiting, selection, onboarding, recognition, advancement, performance management, wellness, work-life balance, PTO. All these things have a direct impact on your people and ultimately your culture at your organization. And the last two, people and communication. So we have people, the types of people you hire, their personalities, their beliefs, their diversity, their behaviors. That's one aspect, as well as communication, the manner that they talk to each other, the manner they work together. The degree and the type and the frequency of interaction is also a key piece of communication as well. And the reason that those are highlighted is because those are kind of the aspects that kind of we're going to be honing in on today, and how GoodellNet specifically has used technology to try and help bolster those areas of culture, especially as we've pivoted to a remote work model. So for GoodellNet, the key piece of technology that we use is part of the Office 365 suite, and it's Microsoft Teams. And that really enables us to help impact the people and the communication aspects of our culture. Teams is advertised by Microsoft as the hub for teamwork because it's a single application that combines a lot of different capabilities like chat, web meetings, telephony, and hosting your files. But the platform also has really interesting ways to enhance the different communication and the people experience in your organization. And we're going to walk through some different scenarios on how we specifically kind of use Teams in our organization and kind of to get some of those things kind of to the surface. For this discussion, you don't really need to know a whole lot about Teams. It helps if you do. But really, the only things you really need to understand that from our perspective, a team, the Microsoft Teams platform consists of teams, which are basically groups of people that have shared conversation and access to files, and that those teams contain separate channels that are underneath those teams where those conversations take place. So as I discuss some of these solutions, I may refer to a channel. Just know that that's just a place where a specific kind of conversation or topic can be discussed. And on the screen there, you kind of see an example of what Teams looks like. You'll see that, again, a high-level Teams over here, as well as sub-channels here underneath it. So we use this technology, Microsoft Teams, to kind of support our culture in multiple ways. Some of these things that we've kind of discovered over time internally, some of these things we've kind of actually have come about through our customer engagements, where customers have brought them to us and say, this is something that's really impactful for us. And we say, you know what, that looks great. We're going to try it internally as well. So the other disclaimer I want to say before we get started here is that one size does not fit all. Some of these things may not fit your culture right now. If that's something that if you're working on, if you're growing, it just may not fit just right. depending on how you use these things. But overall, these are just some good ideas and some suggestions on how you can kind of get started, depending on where you are in your journey. So first off, we have the concept of water cooler chat. Now, this can be called a lot of different things. You can call it water cooler chat. You can call it, we call it happy hour. You can call it off topic. Depending on the type of customer, it may have some other meaning to you as far as what that concept is. But it's basically, the concept is really, it's a place to kind of relax, let loose a little bit, lounge, and really it's just a place for conversations that may or may not be work related. Now, one of the key caveats here is once you kind of establish this water cooler chat space or channel, you really need to make sure that all your employees agree that this is going to be work appropriate content. It's going to be work safe. Obviously, let them know kind of the rules up front. But other than that, a lot of times what we see in these kind of water cooler chat scenarios is it's going to be filled with maybe jokes or puns or memes, or maybe discussion around, sporting events if those ever come back. It's maybe the review of your local lunch spot. It could be really anything that you want. So again, just a place for people to kind of go and kind of relax a little bit, show off their personality, maybe keep people laughing, or just kind of keep people engaged. And speaking of engagements, the second bullet point, we talk about special interest groups. Now, this is the best way I could kind of consolidate what I'm trying to discuss here. So it's close, but I think that it's beyond special interest groups. And really the concept is, when you work closely with a group of people, you're going to have shared interests, shared passions, and you're going to discover those in the office. You're going to be talking to people, and you're going to say, hey, I just got back from vacation, and so. Oh, I love going to so. That's a great place. Or, hey, I was just camping this weekend. Oh man, I love camping. It really could be anything, and you're going to have those conversations in the office, and as you just naturally through the course of your work. So oftentimes, just being in the office gives you that outlet to just kind of share those passions, to discover those shared interests, and really form those relationships that really provide the foundation of a great culture. And if we're not in that same physical space, if we're not in the office, if we're not in the lunchroom, if we're not passing by in the hallways, sometimes those conversations don't take place. So what we have done is we've created some places where people can, kind of organically let these special interest groups or these shared passions kind of grow and nurture those and just have those conversations. So for us, some examples of those things are, we have some channels, for example, like Gearheads, where we have people that like wrenching on cars or like to show off their vehicles. They can go and post there. We have a channel for 3D printing where we can talk about, we have people that are obviously very technical at our office. They like some cool nerdy hobbies. So they go in there and they can post and talk about, things related to that. Also, we have a channel for gamers, so people that like to game, whether it be socially or just independently. But what are the games that they're playing? Where, how do we connect with each other and play together on online? And another one is our wellness channel. So that just highlights the employees' focus on health and wellness. In that again, all these channels existed prior to going remotely, but they just kind of increased usage as people went remotely because that was their avenue to talk about these things. So again, this kind of special interest groups concept is a place where people can go and talk about their shared interests and passions. The third bullet point, I kind of call it open dialogue, and I'll kind of explain what that means. But really, it's just providing spaces for people to feel more comfortable communicating in a remote way. So in the office, we've been doing it for a long time, and we have ways that we do that. So for example, to have a conversation where you feel more open or able to be more vulnerable, usually the audience has to be more limited. You're not going to stand up in front of the entire organization and talk about how you feel about, a situation or a person. But if you have a limited audience, you absolutely can, you'll probably speak up and have more candid conversation. So in an office situation, you can just go grab a conference room or go grab a private area to have a phone call or to have that, face-to-face meeting. As we move remotely, that's a little bit more difficult, especially for those more to be able to get people to be more forthcoming and not have to pull that information out of them. So in order to do that, we can have, we can use teams to create private teams that are focused on a specific, again, work team or a specific project team or whatever that looks like. And we can also create, private channels, if that makes sense, where we have maybe we have an all company team, but we can create a private channel just for this subset or the organization. And again, what we found is that as we do that, people provide much more candid feedback. They're much more open and honest with things when they know that not everybody can see those posts that they're posting. In addition to that, another challenge is giving a place for people to kind of process what's happening in the world around them. And again, the past 3 months, well, heck, the past all of 2020 has been very difficult for a lot of people. There's been a lot of change happening, and we've created some things, some different channels within our organization to help people kind of process, have conversations, and really just to, again, help people feel like they're being heard and that they aren't isolated. So for us, a few examples of that is once we did the shift to working from home, and again, a lot of people kind of experience some of those negative self-isolation behaviors. We created a channel called Faces of Rona, which is simply a place where we said, this is a place to kind of showcase the positive things that have come from quarantine. This is a place to talk about our families and the projects that we've been working on, and show off, our pets, or just the things that, again, make us happy, make us feel connected as an organization. Another channel that was created, and again, completely ad hoc, was called Quarantine Jams. And that was just a place where some people would cultivate different playlists and share them with everybody and say, hey, you're sitting at home, you're working on stuff all day long, why not check out these songs that I like? So just a couple small examples of ways that we can kind of help people process what's going on in the world around them without giving the, again, putting too much effort behind it, and again, giving a place where they can feel comfortable sharing and communicating. The fourth bullet here talks about better top-down communication. Now, I think I've talked about this one on a couple different webinars, but really what this is when we have times of change or uncertainty or anxiety and stress, it's always best to have more frequent, more personal communication from leadership, from the top down. And that's always welcome within the organization. So GoodellNet does a really good job about using Microsoft Teams and combining it with a tool called Microsoft Stream, which is their video publishing service. And again, we've had a lot of communications from executives that will sit down and just record a brief message, whether it be talking about the current work from home situation, or talking about challenges with our, with the specific, challenges for our clients, or success stories for our clients in this time. Or even also, again, recently we had a minor reorganization. They broadcasted information and explained why it happened and what the logic was, and congratulated the people that changed roles. So again, all those simple communications that may have been broadcast out via email in kind of a long bulleted form where people kind of skim over them and say, okay, you're going to get a lot more engagement whenever you create a brief personal message and you talk to people and say, look, this is what's going on. We all, this is what's happening. Next up is the concept of reducing interruptions, or I put open door. And this is really, again, these subtleties that we are so used to being able to experience in the office that we just don't even realize when we go home. So for example, if I'm looking to have a meeting with somebody and their door is open and they're not on the phone, I know that that's a good time to go talk to them. Or or conversely, if somebody has their headset on and they're listening to either music, or they're on the phone, or their door's closed, or again, they're looking like they're not having a great day, those are subtle cues that, this isn't a great time to talk to those people. But now that we don't have that benefit of doing those things, we can't just remote in and take a look at them in their home office and see what's going on. So what we do is we utilize some of the capabilities within the Office 365 suite, specifically the capabilities behind the presence indicators, which is those little status indicators that say red, green, yellow, says out of office, I'm available, I'm away. Those indicators can really help us determine, is this a good time to ask this question, or should I kind of schedule a meeting later, or is this person really available, or are they basically saying leave me alone? If we both use those status indicators on our side, we can reduce the interruptions for people coming in. And if we use it on the flip side, we can also kind of take those cues as this is a good time to kind of reach out to somebody and get an answer to that question. Let's see. The last one we have here is really, and this concept I've said in every single one of our webinars, so I really can't stress it enough, is just the ability to see each other again. So using video on our meetings and our calls to really reduce those negative effects of self-isolation, and bringing back all that subtlety and nuance that's lost on email and phone conversations. I know if you listened to our webinar series at all, you'll know that I've talked about it in every single one of our series, and I think it's one of the biggest pieces of the technology that we have to work from home today that really kind of supports it's the lowest, it's the easiest barrier to entry and the thing that makes the most impact with the least amount of effort. So, like I said at the beginning, we have Nick Morelli, our GoodellNet CEO, who I think does a really good job of managing the culture of our office and kind of helping us define our values and really broadcasting those really to the world. I asked him, I said, what are your top culture tips? What are the things as people join this call, either they're getting started or maybe they just want to go to the next level? Like, what are your tips? What do you do? And he came up with this list for me, and I'm going to go through this real quickly with you. He said number one with the bullet was connect with like-minded leaders. Find people that are both willing to grow, want to learn, and again, just develop and grow as an organization. Find those people, connect with them, and again, share and work together. The second one is for those of you that are maybe just getting started or not quite sure where to start, a book called The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni. And he said that book really kind of forces you to understand what your vision, your values, vision and values are, and kind of take stock of where you're at today. And it kind of gives you a really good framework or foundation for getting started. Third on the list is really cultivate a diverse podcast list on a topic. So if you're a fan of podcasts, there's obviously a ton of content out there. I asked him for kind of specific suggestions. He's like, you know what? I'm a big on diversity because, again, the more points that we can get in this specific area, we're going to get more. We're going to be able to grow faster. So again, not focused on a specific person per se, but in the context of business and culture development, really, there's tons of great podcasts out there. So just sample all those that you can. And then the last bullet point was he should consume all content from the thought leaders that really promote honest dialogue. So he brought up Brene Brown, Simon Sinek, etc. They have a lot of books out there, a lot of great, there's some Netflix specials and YouTube and TEDx talks that are really good. So again, all that content has been very valuable, and again, I've seen a lot of those myself. And it's really good stuff. So again, if you're thinking about getting started or you want to kind of take the next step, here's some good tips for you guys. And that wraps up our content for today. So again, if you want to know more about how you can utilize these tools in Office 365 to support your remote culture and grow your remote culture and see how we recommend using these tools, definitely reach out to me. You can find me at my name, Derek.Watson at GoodellNet.com, or via phone number or LinkedIn here as well. So I'm going to invite Callie to come back on and let us know if you have any questions in the chat.
Hey, Derek. Yeah, we do have a couple questions, so I'll just dive right in. How do you open up lines of communication to get feedback on your culture from your team?
That's a great question. I mean, obviously people struggle with, that's one of those getting started questions, right? I think that one of the biggest things you can do is just selecting a tool that can provide anonymous feedback, true anonymous feedback, not simulated anonymous feedback. So for example, we use tools within Office 365 suite like Microsoft Forms to create these anonymous surveys that we can publish within the organization. But whatever that looks like, if you have access to some other tool, great. But again, just to be able to ask that in an anonymous way that truly that people aren't going to be ashamed, or to be able to kind of be honest and provide candid feedback to you, I think that's the best place that you can start.
Perfect. All right, so the next question, what other tools can support remote culture?
So the tools themselves aren't going to support the remote culture, and it's a great question. But again, we talk about that eternal triangle of people, process, and technology. It's more about the process. It's more about how you use the tools. So again, we talked today about Microsoft Teams and kind of how it supports us, but you could roll Teams out and never utilize it in that way. So it's really kind of layering on some of these concepts, some of the tips from Nick, where he talked about looking at these podcasts and books and thought leaders, what are the things that they're doing, and how can we take the technology that we have and apply it on top of that. So again, for example, for some of our other webinars, we talked about establishing the rules of the road for communication, establishing kind of the rules of the road for working from home. Like, what do those processes look like that are what you as a leadership team want, and how can we encourage the employees to do that? And again, communication. And again, that's why we put a huge focus on Microsoft Teams, because that's really that tool that allows us to provide that communication mechanism to all of our internal people.
Okay, thank you for that. We have just one more question.
Okay.
And it is, how can you avoid burnout when everyone is working from home?
That's a tough one. Obviously, everybody's got unique circumstances. Everybody's well, now we're in summertime, but everybody's a teacher, a camp counselor, an entertainer on top of their normal jobs. So it's very difficult. And again, I'll be completely honest. I think we've all struggled with that over the past few months. However, I think I touched on this in one of our other sessions. Is there's some key things that you can do just from a general perspective to kind of help out with that. And I think some of those things like encouraging health and wellness can really help mitigate some of those negative effects of, like I said, self-isolation and burnout, as well as just coming up with better habits as you work. So for example, I struggled with for the first month just not getting up from my desk, not moving around, not getting my blood flowing, not really eating properly, because I was just so focused all day long on my work. So again, we talk about work-life balance, but at the end of the day, it's really just your life. It's your life balance, and how do we take care of those things? So again, I think if you're really struggling with burnout and you're to a point where you're like, I just need help, really investigate kind of those health and wellness areas first, because I think those are going to pay the most dividends right out of the gate.
Perfect. Well, we did not have any other questions roll through while you were answering that one. So I think that brings us to the end of our webinar content. Thank you all again for joining. We hope that this whole series has been enlightening for you. As Derek mentioned earlier in the webinar, you'll be able to find all of these on YouTube from now to the end of time, but we'll send this recording out to you this afternoon as well.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining today. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.